Lalah Hathaway is one of my favorite vocalists, not only because she has an incredible voice, but because she's a great musician. She's released many solo albums, won 5 Grammys, and collaborated with everyone from Robert Glasper to Joe Sample, Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige, Anderson .Paak, Marcus Miller, and so many more. She's also famous for her ability to sing chords. Yes, for real, look it up, it's crazy. Oh, right. And as her last name suggests, the legendary Donny Hathaway is her father. I just released a video following up our Christmas Heist from last year and announcing our new plan to make this Christmas go #1. But right now, I'm bringing you our full conversation. We talk about not only that song and her father, but her career, her albums and collaborations, how she approaches music, and how she does that chord singing thing. This was so much fun. Let's just get right into it. Here's my conversation with Lalah Hathaway. Lalah Hathaway, thank you so much for joining me and for talking to me today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I got a lot to talk to you about. Let's start with this Christmas last year. You released a new version of is an absolute classic, and you released a new version, and we talked about it briefly like a year ago. But can you tell me where that came from? Because I know it's previously unfound recordings. So can you tell me the story of how that came about?
So, when you used to record records for a label, they would take all the records because they've paid for them and put them in a vault, right?
Yeah.
So this is how Tupac died 25 years ago or 30 years ago and has a new single out every 6 months. So they hold on to this stuff. All the while generally telling the family, we don't know what's in the vault. We don't know what's in there. But they found this recording, this unheard recording of this Christmas, which might have been a demo, might have been a sound check, might have been my dad working it out.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly which day it's recorded. The way I feel, it feels like it's recorded maybe like a couple of days before because I hear him working the vocal out.
Yeah.
I can sense that that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So they said, hey, we have something that we hadn't heard before. Would you like to hear it? And I said, hell yeah. Send it to me. Yeah. And it was so amazing because each of these new recordings feels like a new conversation with my dad.
Yeah.
Every time I get to hear something that's even the slightest bit different, it's like a new conversation, a new chance to get to hear him again. And so when I heard that version, it was a little bit slower. The instrumentation was slightly different.
Yeah.
He's not playing a Wurlitzer. It just felt like it was waiting. It was waiting for me to hear it.
Yeah.
And so I thought, this is something I can really try to finish or put my vocal on or really try to approximate as though we're in the same room.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with Natalie Cole, I don't know, when I was 20 years old, 21 years old. And I said, I don't know if I could do ever what you did with your dad. It's so beautiful, but it's just so spooky to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
She said, you should think about it. She said, you should pick at least one song and you should do it. And that just kept ringing true to me. And so we did it.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love it too, because I mean, now, especially in the last year, like AI stuff has gone crazy. And so they can do all kinds of, like, they just released the last Beatles song that was like a demo from John. And then they had recorded parts in the 90s and they like sort of patched it all together. But this is not that at all. This is like one of his original recordings that then you are getting to be part of.
Right.
And yeah, I love that it's also not just the same recording and that you're on it, because it does feel different. Like it's a little slower. It's got a little swing to it. I love it. It's like a great complimentary version of the song to the classic that everyone knows. So
yeah, I had so much fear, like trying to figure out how to sing it, how to record it, if I should really even do it.
Yeah.
Even the days leading up to it and then the moments leading up to it, I did it with a really good friend of mine named Phil Boudreau, who helped me put it together and got it all set up for me and created the environment for me. And it was just one of those things, like I had been so not with the whole situation for so long.
Yeah.
And then this presented itself in such a good way that I was able to, I really wanted it to feel like we were in the same room. I really wanted that for myself as much as I wanted it for the people.
Yeah. And the way I've heard you, and maybe you can speak to this, but the way I've heard you talk about your father, it's very much sort of a spiritual experience. Like you feel him with you at times while you're singing.
Absolutely.
And you feel that with this, I assume, as well, this recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, it's interesting because he's only one voice on that record. And all the rest of them are me.
Yeah.
But there's moments where it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Which of us is singing in a place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is skipping ahead to what I love about your voice. You have just an insane range because you can sing very high stuff, but your low register in particular, I love. It's so rich, and also I feel like for a lot of vocalists, it tends to be like whoever can sing highest is more impressive or whatever. But I'm exactly the opposite, and I'm like, oh no, let's go. Like that's where it's this untapped reservoir of feeling. So with your low register, and then again on this song, you blending in there with your father, that's an amazing thing.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I always wished I had the highs though. I wish I could I really always saw the girls that could do that, and I always wanted to do that. But I realized I'm in the basement. It's okay.
No, you can go high, and maybe not as high as everybody else, but or someone else. But when you do go high, then I feel like it means more. You know what I mean? Because you're again. I am such a huge fan. I love your voice.
Thank you.
And I feel like you are, and I want to get into more of this in a minute, but I feel like you just are a master of your instrument. Hearing you on this with your father is amazing. And then again, like I said, the low register in there, hearing your guys' voice, it's not only because you are his daughter, but then also your own vocal ability and your own strengths are in there too. Yeah. So I love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. It's me trying to describe to a label like what it may mean for people.
Yeah.
Trying to let people know like it's bigger than a record probably for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing that they grew up with, and it's really important. Not because it's me, but it's such a cherished song.
It is.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And there are so many songs. There are a few songs in particular that are huge Christmas songs, right? They break records and they come back every year. But I would argue, that none are as beloved as This Christmas. And I'm fully biased, and I'm good with that. There are a lot of songs that are popular and that everybody loves and that we sing and that we get all, every year.
Yeah.
But when folks love This Christmas, it's a completely different experience.
Yeah, there's a depth to it. So it's the quality and not just the quantity. Absolutely. So last year, what I did is I did a bunch of calculations on Spotify, and I basically made a Spotify playlist called literally Just This Christmas. And according to the math, it was over 1,200 instances of Just This Christmas. And I asked people to stream it just on repeat and just go, like, everybody do their part and go one time through. And you could have it on silent.
Awesome. That was awesome.
It was a ton of fun, and getting the response from people, because I got a lot of people to actually do it, which is crazy.
Namely me.
You did it too?
Absolutely. We all did it. Absolutely, we did.
I love it. So This Christmas did not go number one last year. However, and again, ultimately, I don't want to, undo everything we just said about the depth of the song, because yes, this is quality over quantity. But I want to also get the quantity up, because it is such a beloved song. And so last year, 2020, it entered Billboard, the 2020 season, and it was at number 39. And then I don't think it was on the year after that. And then last year, after this little heist, and this is not entirely me, I'm not going to take full credit for this, but it re-entered at 37. So it was slightly higher. So I feel like there's momentum. We move the needle a little bit. So this year, the plan is, after doing more research on Spotify, and the idea with Spotify and streaming in particular is to try to get the social aspect of it going. But after doing research and hearing from people, specifically the listening on mute, that Spotify factors things like that into it.
Yeah.
And whether or not those are legitimate listens. So the plan this year is do the things that Spotify looks for in the algorithm, which is all very positive things. So adding This Christmas to your own playlist, and then sharing This Christmas to other people from the app. So this is what I'm going to ask people to do, is to add it to a couple of their own playlists and share it to like 5 people. And I'm going to do all the math on it. And if everyone, I'll crunch all the numbers, whatever the numbers have to be. But yeah, we're trying again this year. So
absolutely. And every year,
yes. And there were enough people last year, and I already have people now that are like, hey, December's coming up. What's the plan? Are we doing this Christmas? So I'm very excited about it.
Me too. I appreciate it. It's such a beloved song. It's like, for a lot of folks, the season doesn't even start until they hear that record.
Yes.
And I know for me, in the last maybe 15 years or so, it would start the season, but I would hear every version except Daddy's version of it.
Yes.
And there are so many covers of This Christmas.
Yeah.
And there are even covers this year using his voice.
Oh.
Which is,
yeah.
God bless everyone. But I feel like I'm in a special lane to be able to do that, and people are going to do it, and AI is going to do it, and the labels are going to do it, and sharks see blood in the water, and all of that is fine. It just expands the territory of Donny Hathaway, and so in that way, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But there's so many versions of it that I don't even know if people know. It's so canon now in this season that people don't even know that Donny Hathaway recorded that song, wrote it, and created that song.
Yeah. I'm here to do my part to spread the word and make sure people know. And that people who know the song but don't know the story, or don't know that it's Donny Hathaway, then know that. Or, if people want an actual very good musical alternative to a lot of the Christmas music out there, I'm not going to name names, but that This Christmas has always been here. I love This Christmas too, on a musical level, chord wise and timing wise. It's very unusual for a Christmas song, because a lot of Christmas stuff is time wise much more straightforward, or chord wise more straightforward. But there's a lot of really interesting unexpected phrases, and it absolutely works. It's not jarring at all. So yeah. Speaking from the musical end, that's why it's my favorite Christmas song.
Yeah, it's a great piece of music. It's not a walk in the park.
Yeah. And
I've heard so many people and musicians massacre it.
Yes.
Even with the time changes at the end. I mean, it's a good piece of music that a whole culture is like, I identify with that.
Yeah.
And that to me is the hallmark of really good music. It's a good, richly fabric piece of music.
Yes.
that people get, and they don't even know why they get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's quality. Oh, let me tell you a little story about the video.
Oh, yes, please.
The video, first of all, we fought really hard to get those little pieces. There's not a whole lot of video of my dad just in the world.
Yeah.
Or photographs, things come up. And we worked, again, that's Phil Boudreau, the same guy that produced the track with me, also did the visuals. And he's great, by the way. You should definitely check him out. I'll send you some stuff. He's really one of the most talented people I know. Really, really good guy. Put this visual together with my dad and with me, and I'm so proud of what it is. It's so crazy to watch. Like there's one part where it looks like he's looking at me.
Yeah.
It's just so crazy and affirming in such a crazy way.
Yeah.
So we entered it this year for the Grammys, or we tried to.
Yeah.
But someone forgot to enter it, so we didn't get into
it. Is that the window, or is it possible to do it next year?
I don't know. I'm still mad about it.
All right. Well, next year's Christmas Heist will be centered around the video. How about that?
Next year, that's right. We'll do it next year. We also entered the record. Yeah. But they labeled it best remix.
It's not what a remix is, but
correct. It's these things, you have to, it's not a remix because you haven't heard it.
Right.
It's a new thing. Right. It would be like any song with a sample is a remix. No, that's not what that is. It's a new take. It's stuff you've never heard before.
Yeah.
But I was not in control of it. So.
All right. Well, yeah. I got my work cut out for me next Christmas as well. Perfect. I don't know where to start because I want to talk to you about your own voice and the way you. Let's get into the musical weeds. So I know you grew up in Chicago and you went to Berkeley, and then now you are Dr. Lalah Hathaway.
Yes, I am.
Because of Berkeley as well. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I always forget until someone says it. Like when you say Dr. Hathaway, it's just so strange.
So you went there to Berkeley, and then out of Berkeley, you have your first album, and then you are a 5-time Grammy winner. As long as my number is correct. And
yeah, it's like, the way you said that is like Chicago, Berkeley, Grammy, but it's like Chicago, Berkeley. It was not until 8 years ago, I had been 25 years in making records.
Yeah.
And then, won some Grammys.
What was your first Grammy?
First Grammy was for a cover of a cover of a cover. It was for It's Something, which is a record I recorded first when I was 19 or 20, a record by Brenda Russell and David Foster.
Yes.
That I re-recorded for my live album that I also re-recorded with Snarky Puppy, which is a different arrangement of it.
Yeah.
A live arrangement.
So that Snarky Puppy recording, one element of that you are very famous for, not only for the song and for singing incredibly, but your ability to sing chords. So I think I speak for most people when I say, what in the world, how do you do that? That's crazy.
I don't even know. It's the thing literally I've been doing or flirting with doing since I was like 13 or 14 years old.
Yeah.
It's just a thing that my instrument can do. I hear people sort of approximating it. It's not like, we call it chord singing because sometimes I can manipulate the 1-3-5 of it or the 1-3-5-6 of it, Yeah,
you can do how many notes at a time?
Sometimes 3, sometimes 4, sometimes only 2.
Wow.
I cannot really control it. I do not know how to practice it other than doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. So what's funny is to see people explaining what I'm doing on YouTube because I don't know what I'm doing.
You're like, oh, that's what it was. Okay. Oh, thank you.
I did go to an ENT and I had a scope and I made the chord while the scope was in there.
Oh.
So I have video of how it's done.
Wow.
So you know how your chords kind of move like this and they vibrate and they make the sound. But what's happening when I do that is that only part of the chord, like part of it stays closed and the other part opens.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm doing it. It looks crazy. It looks alien. I don't know how to control it. I don't know what to say about what that is. It's just a thing that I can do.
I actually like that. I like that it, and that you don't have full control over it, because it feels almost mystical. Like it just kind of comes. It comes when it comes.
It comes when it comes. And I got so lucky on that recording. Like it's actually, you can see me working it out on that recording with Snarky Puppy. Yeah. I tried it the first time. I tried it the second time and it got better. And then I tried it the third time, not knowing where the changes are really going to go because Corey's just going.
Yeah.
And then he changed it. And then I was able to change the tonality of it, which was, I had never done before, that moment that you see in that video. So we got lucky.
That's the craziest part, is being able to change it. It's not just like, here's a cool trick. It's that you can change the chord while it's wild. Your musical upbringing, I know, because you went to Berkeley, so there's some formal music education there. What was your young, like, because you said, you know, when you were younger you discovered this vocal cord thing. From a musical perspective, and obviously with your dad tied in there, but what was your upbringing like musically? Because then you ultimately did go to college, and did you finish at Berkeley?
I mean, legally, not really. I'm like 6 credits short or some such. I mean, yeah, mostly yes.
Okay, so mostly yes, yeah. But
I walked across the stage and George Benson handed me a diploma. Mostly. Yes.
So what was your young musical pre-college like?
My young musical life, I mean, starting out at like age 3 or 4, I was in piano lessons. I was a student at the American Conservatory of Music in Chicago from a very young age.
Yeah.
Playing piano. I went to a performing arts high school in Chicago called the Academy of Performing Arts. You know, I grew up with a lot of music in the 70s and 80s that really informed who I am still right now. There was a lot of music on the radio that I had access to. There was a lot of rock and country rock and pop and soul music and R&B music and blues and gospel. And there was such an array of music just so readily available.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell people all the time, like, you could listen to the radio all day and not hear the same artist twice. You know, for a couple of days, there was just so much to hear. And all of that music informed who I am as an artist. But I've always been kind of a musician from the time I got here.
Yeah. Did you play something, or do you now play something other than being a vocalist? Do you have another instrument?
I was a piano player as a kid. I played piano. That was the first kind of formal training I had.
Yeah.
And I still play keys a little, not as much as I should.
Yeah.
And my mom is on me about that. My Rhodes is out in the world getting fixed, and I can't wait to get it back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I play just little tiny bits of guitar. I'm one of those people that can pick up probably any instrument and make some sort of sound on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm natural at music.
Yes.
I'm not a great instrumentalist though.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Cause I think I'm sure you're familiar with the vocalist stereotype of, like, you know, the vocalist versus musicians and vocalists not being musicians. And I think you're the exact opposite of that. I think you're a vocalist who has incredibly high musicianship, which I think that is part of what sets you apart, is your ability to, I don't know, it's like you're aware of everything happening, and sort of what you're saying with all the different musical influences and inspirations all woven in there. That's not really a question. I'm just
yeah. You know what I do this thing whenever I, go around and talk to, students or musicians, I always ask, how many singers in the room?
Yeah.
And, generally all the women will raise their hands. How many musicians in the room? And all the dudes will raise their hands. And I'm trying to tell women, specifically women in this era, you have to be a musician.
Yeah.
You possess like the original instrument.
Yes.
So you have to, you cannot show up and just be beautiful. You can, clearly the industry teaches us that you can.
Right.
But if you are searching for what is going to make you a better musician, you have to be able to understand the theory, understand what's happening in the band, learn to be a good band leader, show up on time, understand how to, at least in a small way, communicate what it is you need from the band.
Yes.
That's really important. And so there is this kind of disparity between like the chick that stands in the front,
right,
and the people that really make it happen behind the scenes.
Yes.
And being at Berklee, even before I got to Berklee, but really when I got to Berklee, I recognized that I wanted to hang out with those guys because they had records I had never heard.
Yeah.
They had bootlegs of things I had never heard. They were talking about things that I didn't understand and didn't know about.
Yeah.
And so for me to show up and sing Stormy Weather, and then they get to stay back and play Schofield tunes or, listen to Max Roach or talk about Elvin's brushes. I wanted to know all of that so that I could hang, so that I could, talk about music with them and learn what they knew.
Yeah.
And that's important to me. My musicianship is important to me.
Yes, I can tell. Because it feels like, to use a clunky metaphor, it feels like you see the entire matrix of music and you're like, let me grab one of these over here. Let me grab one of these over here. And then I'm going to knit this together for you. Here you go.
And you know what it is? It's because it's coming out of my mouth. This is what all musicians are trying to do, right?
Yes.
The thing is that I'm communicating it with my original instrument.
Yeah.
Makes it feel like something else. And it's really important to, and I try to balance this part of it, but I just refuse to ever get punked in a session. I refuse to ever go into a session and feel like I couldn't play.
Yeah.
Like we're doing giant steps. Okay. We're playing Cherokee. Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to stand with those people and play music. I wanted to continue to play music.
Yeah.
So that's been really important.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, because you're saying, the voice is the original instrument, and that's what we're trying to get back to. I know for me, because I'm a bass player, when I was in college, I took lessons with a bass player. She's also a vocalist. And so one of the things that she would work on with me was, like, because you're saying it's coming out of your mouth and it's directly connected to you, was a lot of that, where like, if it's a solo or if it's, we're playing whatever standard, she's like, okay, what's your story on this? Like, what is your attitude towards this? How is this going to come out of you? Not just like, okay, I'm playing this scale and I'm going to combine it with this or whatever, but what is the feeling aspect of it?
Yeah.
So
how do you get your bass to sing?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And for you, it feels like as a singer, you're doing the same thing, but in reverse. And you're like, okay,
it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Specifically like horn players, guitar players, like how do I get my instrument to sound like Cannonball Adderley?
Yeah.
And how does Cannonball Adderley get his instrument to sound like Nancy Wilson?
Yeah.
And I know I'm using a lot of jazz references and there's probably a lot of names that people don't know, but these are masters in the field.
Yeah.
This is how we get to where we are. If you are like a musician, you start.
Yes.
I started with the greats and learning what the greats are doing. And that includes Prince and Stevie,
of course,
and Michael and Shaka. That includes Joni Mitchell. That includes all of those people.
Yeah.
But that's my foundation right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well, yeah. Talking about session stuff, you obviously have many albums. Starting in 1990, and then your most recent, you did a live album, I want to say 2015. And then you have other albums in between, but then you also have so many features.
Yeah.
on other people's work. So can I name a few of them? And if something comes up, like maybe like a little speed round, like if something comes
Okay.
up, you can stop me. How about that? I'll start going through, and then you can go, oh, I got something on that.
Okay.
Kendrick Lamar, To Pimp a Butterfly.
Ding, ding, ding. That's one of my favorite collaborations I've ever done. Absolutely. Love him. They used my whole song for that Mama song, but I'm basically on almost the whole record.
Yeah.
So that's me at the end of Black of the Berry. I'm on Complexion. I'm on a lot of stuff that Thundercat is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. It's one of my favorite records of all time.
Yeah, that's an amazing record. All right. Joe Sample. I know you did an album with Joe Sample.
Loved him. He's no longer with us. I miss him all the time.
Yeah.
It's a great record. I mean, you know, it used to not come up as part of my catalog because it's a Joe Sample record featuring me, but I'm on like 7 of 11 songs, so it's my record too.
Right. More recent, Jose James.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge Jose James fan. Well, for one, I love hearing you pop up in places. So that was one that I'm listening to that record and I'm like, wait a minute, is that okay? And then you check the credits, and then, I mean, it's fairly obvious as well that it's your voice. But yeah, Jose James, Al Jarreau, another more recent, Moonchild. I love that. What's the Tell Him is the song.
Tell Him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man,
love that song. Love them. Have been really listening to them. I have like this thing in my house on Saturdays where I play music all day, and they are in every Saturday over the last like 5 years at least. So it was so great to be listening to them and love the vibes, and then meet them, and they're also awesome. And I love Amber so much, and to go and guest with them was so much fun.
Yeah,
we're
awesome.
working on some music now too. So
oh yeah, okay, all right. Well, can't wait to hear it. Over multiple albums and multiple performances as well, Robert Glasper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I talked to Derek Hodge a couple months ago, and we talked about Black Radio 1, because that was one that I like, the other ones as well, but that one in particular I wore out like crazy. So specifically Cherish the Day, that one is like, that's deep in my psyche.
Thank you.
I love it. Gregory Porter as well.
Oh yeah.
And he's another one because I said how much I love Low Register. Same thing with his voice. And so hearing both of your voices together, just like low and comfortable and soothing.
Like a glass of brandy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's I mean, one of the guys that sings with me, Kalo King, has a good deep bass baritone like that too. And so sometimes we do that record, and it's so nice because you just barely get to hear those guys in the world. Like everybody, like the way we talk about women up high, it's men up high too. Every guy's a falsetto.
Yeah.
So he also has falsetto, but that richness, when we hear it, is so nice. And Gregory is like so great.
Yes. Amazing. A Snarky Puppy, obviously we talked about that. Tank and the Bangas, Anderson Paak, Marcus Miller, Terrace Martin, Esperanza, Frank Ocean, and Mary J. Blige. It's amazing to see not only like your solo stuff and your own music, but then hearing you pop up. I don't know. It feels like, I don't know. I don't have stats on this, but it feels like you're one of the most featured vocalists for a lot of stuff.
That could be.
Does that feel right? As far as the level that I'm talking about, that's not like, that is a little bit richer music.
I mean, that feels good. I'll take it. It may be true. I mean, it's definitely been part of my whole mission. Like, I used to look at Marcus Miller's discography or Will Lee's discography, and I would say, God, these guys have been on records forever. There's so many records they're on. And if I look at mine right now, it is starting to look like that. I mean, there are records that I forget about that I'm on with like Ricky Peterson, Hiram Bullock, and To the Extreme, and SWV, and there's so many records that I am on in some sort of way, adding my fabric to that record. So I'm really proud of that, and the breadth of records as well.
Yes. Well, it feels like kind of a continuation of what you're saying, how you wanted to be, you know, talking with the band about what they're talking about. But you're on all of these records, but you're featured and not like in the background singer, because your voice is very present in it.
On the Frank Ocean record, I don't know. Can you hear me on that record?
A little bit.
It's there for like 2 seconds, but it's there. You know, Mary J. Blige record. Did you hear about that record?
What about it?
I'm on her. I actually produced a record for her in the 90s that only went on the Mary Japanese version of the record called Almost Gone.
Oh.
And then I was listening to, I opened for her for a few weeks, a few years ago. And right before that, I was listening to her record, The Thick of It. And as I heard it, I felt like I heard this little piece, and I thought, that sounds like me. And lo and behold, it was me. It was a sample that a kid that we both happened to work with used the sample. And it's me, that little duh on the Mary J. Blige record that's also on Her record. He also used it there. So I'm on those records too. Like, in ways, there are times when I hear my dad on records that people may not perceive, like, oh, that's a Donny Hathaway sample, but they took it and they did something to it. And I always hear it. I can always tell when I hear his hands or hear his voice.
Really? I guess, that makes sense. There's for one, there's a finite amount of recordings out of the vault that you are probably more familiar with than anybody, but then also there's definitely a feeling to it.
Absolutely.
So it's like you're a sample spotter yourself. If you listen to it, you'll be able to find it. That's cool. What are some of your favorite samples of either your music or your dad's music that you've heard?
I love how they flipped my song On Your Own for Kendrick's record, because that was a song given to me in a dream by my dad. I hear my dad all the time. Let me think. Samples. Or if I mean, the ghetto is obviously sampled everywhere.
Yes. What goes through your head when you are singing, either something improvised or something well rehearsed? What goes through your head when you're performing?
It depends on the day. Some days it's like I'm not there at all. I'm just
in a good way or in a bad way?
Never in a bad way. There are just some days where, you know how what is it called when you're in the flow?
Yeah.
When you're in the flow. And I know people spent a lot of time talking about that thing that we did on the Snarky Puppy record. But before you get to that thing, there's like 4 minutes of ad-libs.
Yeah.
That are not really repeated.
Yeah.
So, and I generally don't sing long. If you've ever seen me live or sit in with someone, I get up, I may do 32 bars, and then I'm out. And for that thing to take that amount of time to get to that.
Yeah.
People don't talk about that, but that's a lot of information that somehow is stored in my head. So sometimes I'm not I'm present, but I'm not really there or thinking. I'm in a flow state.
Yeah.
Some days I'm wondering, did we get a buyout to eat dinner? Because they didn't even have catering. What are we going to do afterwards? Did they put Jelly Bellies in the room? Because I asked for Jelly Bellies. There are some days where there's just minutia
Yeah, yeah.
Or I might be in a flow state and someone puts a flash on in the first row and I'm fully out of my
That takes you
state.
out, yeah.
Yeah. So it really depends. I really try to be as present as possible because it is the place in the world where I have the most fun, where
Yeah.
I am most myself, where I am most kind of in control of what's happening.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that state.
Yeah. You just did a tour. Is that correct? Am I getting that right? Or you just had a bunch of different
Yeah, we had a
dates?
bunch of dates. Yeah.
Not a formal tour, but a bunch of dates.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. There's never a time where I'm not really working.
hmm.
I'm generally working all year. I'm going to take a little time this year. I'm putting out a record next year.
That
And
was my question.
so,
What do you have coming up?
yeah, I have a record coming out. I just did a deal with SRG. They're going to partner with me and help me, get out there and do it. I'm excited about it. I did a lot of work over quarantine time and just have been sitting on a lot of these records. And so I'm excited to present again and to get back in it again.
Yeah. Can I ask you this? What is your favorite of your dad's songs that are covers, like What's Going On?
So here's the thing. So many of my dad's records are covers.
Yeah.
So many of my records are covers.
Yeah.
And people sometimes come to the show and say, why don't you sing your own songs? Like they're all my own songs.
Yeah.
I did not even understand that Marvin Gaye wrote What's Going On until I was like 19 years old. Because everyone played my dad's arrangement of it. I just didn't know. It just, I think I grew up thinking that was his song. I grew up thinking Jealous Guy was his song. So when I heard John Lennon sing it, I thought, oh, that's nice. He covered. Then I had to put it together,
Yeah.
I love Jealous Guy. I love What's Going On. A lot of the records in my father's repertoire, records that people know him for, are covers.
Yeah.
And I do the same.
Well, it sort of feels like it borrows from jazz in that aspect, because who is the original of, All of Me or whatever? Because there's, although it's a mix in between, because your father is associated with those songs for a lot of people as the primary artist.
A song for you. I think a lot of people, I've seen really professional people like give him credit for writing that song, and he did not.
Yeah.
But he had a way of like stamping a thing, which I hope I fall into at some point. Yeah. Like the hope is that you create something that stands next to the thing that you got. You know what I mean? When I sing Love's Holiday, it clearly is not Earth, Wind and Fire. It'll never be Maurice White.
Right.
But that he told me that it was his favorite cover of that song, it means the world to me. It's a love letter to him. All of those records on the Joe Sample record are covers.
Yeah.
A lot of my whole first album, I'm Coming Back, is a cover. It's Something is a cover.
Yeah.
We do a lot of those. And I think just to be able to reinterpret a piece of music really speaks to how great that piece of music is.
Yeah.
And to be still recording It's Something and I'm Coming Back 35 years from the time they came out is amazing.
Yeah. And I feel like sometimes too, it feels like a song has to arrive at the right artist, which is not the original artist. Like, because you've mentioned Earth, Wind and Fire. I did a video all about Earth, Wind and Fire's cover of Got to Get You Into My Life, which is the Beatles. Yeah. But I argue in that video that the best version of that song is the Earth, Wind and Fire version. And I actually, there's quotes from Lennon and McCartney where they're like, yeah, we were trying to do like a Motown thing on that song. And so then, I take that. I'm like, well, okay, the Beatles are trying to do Motown. Well, then Earth, Wind and Fire is trying to do the Beatles doing Motown, but they're going to do Earth, Wind and Fire. So if the Beatles were trying to make a song in the style of the popular black music of the day, they're going to have their take on it. But then if you have Earth, Wind and Fire doing it, that's going to, a decade later, that's going to be a different thing.
What a version of that record. I mean, everything they did, but that speaks to like my childhood, that kind of record.
Yeah.
That presentation, the intro, Maurice's energy, the horns, that speaks to the music of my youth. Like it was a thing when you arrived on the set. People showed up, and it meant a lot. It meant a whole lot. So that's the music that informed me growing up.
Yeah, that's one of those ones that hearing the original versus the cover, I'm so curious as to what the process was, the arranging process to get to that, because it's so incredible, and the song is there, but it's so different, but it feels, again, in my opinion, correct. Yeah, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
We've been going almost 50 minutes now. I want to be respectful of your time.
No, you're good. I really appreciate you, because I do a lot of interviews, and some of them are dumb.
Well, I don't want to be, I don't want this to be a dumb interview.
No, it's so fun to talk about music, because a lot of times in the music industry, there's so much focus on other stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not a lot of people that are in the music industry really truly understand music. Yes.
And that's what I'm meaning when I'm talking about like the level of music that has a little more depth to it. Which you are firmly in. Cause there is a lot of nonsense out there, and then a lot of talking about nonsense. So yeah. Do you have anything you want to promote or send people to? I'll link to anything you need in the caption.
I mean, it's basically all the same stuff as everyone. I'm considering a Patreon for 2024, because I want to be able to get to people directly.
Yeah.
We got these dates, which are always on my website, which is LalahHathaway.com. I have a very super famous, like, underground pink room that used to exist. We started in 1997, where people would come and I would DJ for them with YouTube, or we would have like, folks came in from all over the world to say, here's what's happening in the Netherlands. Here's what's happening. It was a message board, really. And I feel like we were Facebook and Twitter before there was Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
And we've sort of tried to replicate it on Facebook, but it's really hard. But the people that have been with me forever are still with me, and I really appreciate those folks.
Yeah. Yeah. And thinking about, because you mentioned Patreon, and I'm launching a Patreon on this Friday.
Wonderful.
That is for all of the same reasons that you're mentioning, because you want direct access to people. And the way that social media is going, and the algorithms and everything, it's bad. Yeah.
I mean, in the place where I discovered you, I would never discover you now on Twitter.
Yes.
Because I'm not even up there.
Exactly.
It's a dumpster fire up there. It's hideous.
The
other night for the for the Soul Train Awards, I went to Twitter to see like what's up. What's nothing. It's a ghost town.
Yeah, it's because you can either the algorithm can change and then favor stuff, or the platform can completely disintegrate like Twitter is doing.
Or any of those people that you build up that you talk to occasionally, like if they walk away with all that data, you can't find those folks. You can ask them, hey, meet me at Facebook.
Right.
But it's everything is throttled and so bad. I'm really experimenting and kind of looking into Fanbase, which is Isaac Hayes Jr.'s. Have you seen that?
I haven't. No.
It looks like a really cool platform. I have to get into it more because there's so many that have happened. But people are monetizing things and setting up over there. There's Threads, which it's just like Twitter, but not really.
I know.
I'm on TikTok. I love it over there, but mostly just for like Game of Thrones clips, what I'm seeing over there. And honestly, the Patreon seems like the way just to even be able to have the dialogue. And I did that live album with Pledge Music, which was sort of the same type of setup. Yeah. And so, direct to consumer, I think ultimately is going to be where it's at.
For me, I'm in particular, everything that you're talking about with direct access to people, just getting to say, hey, I've made a thing, go check it out. And you're not having to, yes. And you're not having to like play the algorithm game. So yeah, I think that's,
hard. It's so hard. And it's like, for a person like me, who is generally fully clothed, you know, it's even harder. I've been watching stuff over the past few months, and it's like, in terms of the music space, you're here or you're here. And this has always been the way, but the chasm is like stretching out even more.
It totally is. Yeah.
It can sometimes be depressing.
And I think because I've thought about, and I talked a little bit in one video about AI stuff, and I think AI is going to widen that gap even further, because like YouTube just announced, I think it was last week, it was like on Monday, they said, hey, we're banning any AI generated music. Like if you're impersonating a singer, it's not allowed on YouTube, which I was like, okay, I think generally that's a good thing. And there's exceptions like parody or whatever, but generally I understand what they're doing, and I support that. But then on Wednesday, they announced they have like an AI generated music thing where you can add music to your video by typing a text prompt, and then you can say one of 9 famous singers, so like John Legend or Cher or whoever, and then it does like an AI voice. So it's not that they're banning it, it's that they want to be in charge of it.
Yeah. I mean, here's a question. There's a place where like engineers and producers really create artists, right?
Yeah.
That's in the studio with auto-tune, with Melodyne, with everything that they do. Like, where does that meet AI? Because to me, they're kind of what in a large way.
Yeah.
There are a lot of artists that probably wouldn't exist without the engineers that they have.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying? So it's an interesting balance. Like I tend to think of like auto-tune or Melodyne as like the reverb of now.
Yeah.
Like there's a bit of that. Some kids sound like that naturally because that's what they grew up listening to.
Yeah.
And emulating,
Yeah.
But there's a piece of like where they kind of meet along the same time-space continuum in a way.
Yeah. It is interesting to hear younger singers now live, like no microphone, but it sounds like their voice is compressed. Mm-hmm. And it's because that's what they've grown up listening to.
Yeah.
It's a strange phenomenon, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
we learn what we listen to. It's crazy. Yeah.
To bring it home, because you have listened to so many different genres of music, like you said, growing up, I feel like you have an ability to navigate in between wherever you want to go. And like I said, like seeing the whole matrix and just going, oh, I'll do a little of this, a little of that, a little of this, and then put a bow on it, and then here you go. Which is a skill that is stands out because it's going out of style right now.
It's also because I'm a singer. Because there's a lot of guitar guys or keyboard guys or drummers you would call for any session. Like I need a Larry Graham feel, or I need a Marcus Miller feel, or I need a Charlie Mingus feel, or I need a Bootsy feel. Mm-hmm. And guys can step in and do that and approximate that because they're musicians and they have been informed by music. They've learned music. They've listened to the masters. They've listened to the crap on the radio. They know how to approximate all of those things. I just do that with my voice.
You do it with your voice, but you also, because I want to give you full credit. You're not like an AI regenerating something. You are also making it your own in the way that any incredible musician does. Because that's exactly what it is taking all of that and then synthesizing it and making a new thing out of it. So anyway, I'm just gushing now.
Thank you. Did it.
Dr. Lalah Hathaway, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story. This has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.